Hope everyone is having a great Sunday and a good weekend thus far. I just wanted to talk today about the state of Modern and what could actually help the game and the longevity of it, and from a collectible standpoint as well. And we know that when a lot of collectors and investors in the game in the 90s were upset because of Chronicles, they ended up making what we now know to be the reserve list, and that was where they had a set amount of cards that they said they weren't going to reprint ever again. Some of it was because of how powerful the cards were, and some of the reasons were to maintain some of that secondary market value because people built up these collections, spending a lot of money on cards, singles at local game stores, and they felt like they got hosed when Chronicles came out and blasted a lot of these reprints into the ether. And then now, here we are, decades later, and we're having a similar problem right now with Modern. Modern was one of the institutions in Magic the Gathering. They would do reprints, but it would be few and far between through Masters sets. And then slowly they kind of got rid of that, brought it back, and then now they're kind of doing their own versions of it. With Secret Layers, they're doing singles, selling directly to the consumer. There's tons of Modern reprints now that are being done in Standard and Summer sets, like Conspiracy, Battle Bond, what have you. So what's going to happen now? So Modern decks have tanked in value. The average Modern deck is now almost comparable to Pioneer, which is a bit frightening because Modern, people would pour $1,000+ into making a top tier deck, and then with reprints and also now the fact that we have another factor like COVID, where people can't physically meet to play the game, and that actually increases the value of the product. Not only because you can get prizes, so there's a monetary value on, hey, if I get good cards, if I build a competitive deck, I can go to a tournament, play somebody else, and get prizes that I can, exchange for monetary value through getting more cards or even cash, right, at a buy list or selling them to another player. So there's a lot of components that make Modern, made Modern a very investable game, like cards, because you want to play in a competitive way, and sometimes you pay to play, and that was kind of the way Modern was going. People net decking, etc. But because of all of this, now with all the reprints and the fact that the state of the world we're in right now, Modern is starting to tank, and not just like tank. I'm talking like annihilated in value. Some of the most expensive cards like Liliana, Tarmogoyf, Jace the Mind Sculptor, what are we looking at? Most of the land cycle, even the fetch lands have slowly dipped, but those are probably the most stable cards right now in Modern is probably the fetch lands. But everything else, pretty much everything else but the fetch lands, have all been going down, especially like those uncommon cards that you would need in your deck, whether it's Street Wraiths or I'm trying to think of some other cards. Well, Path to Exile went down. Fatal Push, that's went down a lot too. So there's a lot of cards that have been tanking. And, some people say, well, that's great, because now we can buy all these cards, build a deck for a cheaper cost, and go into the game and play competitively. Yeah, but we can't really play competitively right now. So the prices are just on the downward slope, and the only thing that's going to bring them back is, a change in policy from Wizards of the Coast to maybe not do as many reprints in quick succession, or to, if things open back up to normal and they get, they link up with Channel Fireball or some other events, get the GPs going back again, do live coverage, get people interested in playing the game again, not just on Arena, because Arena that's not supporting the paper format. So from a strictly paper Magic format to what are we going to do with Modern? So I actually ended up selling about a third of my Modern collection during this pandemic, most of it at a loss. Not all, but most of it. And yeah, it kind of sucks to do that. But the state of the game right now and where Modern is kind of heading, there's a lot of uncertainty. I wanted to offload some of my position. I dismantled a few decks, sold parts of it, kept the cards that I think are going to at least maintain a certain value, like the lands, and I will reassess later on what I want to do with the rest of it. So a lot of players are actually doing that, not just me. A lot of collectors and investors are just completely selling out of Modern, and they're either trading all their Modern cards in, for trying to get some Power 9 cards, some, revised dual lands, and maybe some older beta cards, Arabian Nights. And that's not a bad idea, because a lot of stores actually offer bonus for trade. And if they actually have some Power 9s or old reserve list cards, that might be a safe place to put, your trade value into. Most stores are pretty reliable, and they're pretty honest. So if they, when it comes to grading, obviously you want to take it, you don't want to do it online. It's better to do it in person if some of your local game stores are at least open to that capacity. And, give it a look. But I think that's a pretty good idea if you want to shift some of your Modern collection away, put it in something else that you, as a player, you want to collect and invest in. Reserve lists, the dual lands, Power 9s are great. But apart from that, those are reserve lists. What can we do to help maintain some of the value in Modern? And there's going to be a lot of people who are listening to this who are going to be upset at the fact that it's, you're looking at the game from a financial perspective and not as a playability perspective. And that's fair, but I'm trying to see it through both lenses here, because one of the reasons why people like playing Magic to begin with and they stay in the hobby is the fact that there is a financial component to it, where they go to a draft or a sealed event, they open their cards, and later they're like, oh, I can trade these cards back in for credit or money, and I can go play another one. Wow, that was crazy. Or I can put this into these binders and I can build a collection, and there's some sort of monetary value where you can get some secondary value back out of it, right, from the market. And that's always good. No one wants to play a game, or let's say if you're collecting Marvel Legends or something, and you're buying them for years, and you kept them in your packages, and then you go back later and you find out that they're being fire sold for like $2 a piece. Like, you probably would be upset the fact that you're keeping all these for that long. And obviously there's market corrections here and there, but for the long run, the health of a hobby or a collectible or a game, some of it does have to do with the monetary value attached to it. So that's why I think potentially a good idea for Wizards moving forward is just to slowly expand the reserve list over time. So add a few cards in Modern to help solidify confidence in the game, that people, if they do have a Modern collection, if they have a couple Modern decks here and there, the whole thing's not just going to tank in value. Maybe look at the top tier decks, find one or two cards in those decks and be like, you know what, we'll make that a reserve list card. We will never reprint that card again. So if you want to build that deck, if you have that deck already, you'll feel a little bit confident being like, okay, well, I'll just keep my deck the way it is, and I'll, even if a card gets banned here and there, at least I have this deck and it'll maintain value because, let's say Mox Opal. Let's say I know it's banned, but let's say if you have an affinity deck, when they banned Mox Opal, that deck just went to, it just tanked in value completely. And I had an affinity deck and I was very upset because I built it not at the Mox Opal's height, but it was on the uptrend. I think I paid over $50 a piece with Mox Opals. But you have to remember, when cards get banned in decks, it lowers the value of other cards in the deck. It's like collateral damage. So what if they were to just make a reserve list card from each Modern deck? It would help you feel like, okay, well, I don't want to dismantle my entire deck and just sell all the cards. I'll keep it together because at least this card, and I have a playset of them, is on the reserve list now, and I know that at least it's not going to just completely tank in value. It'll kind of be steady, maybe even have some growth. And you never know, people, they love to do buyouts. So you never know, you might even get a buyout here and there. I just wanted to bring this up because I've been following closely the prices on MTG stocks, and I'm looking at particularly Modern staples and how low they've been going. If I implore you, please go check it out yourself. Yeah, some of the data out there is pretty scary and significant in the impact that the game has been going through in the last year or so. It's been on the downward trend even before because of all the bans and the lack of confidence. Well, anyways, I think I've kind of spoken your ear off at this point, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you think that expanding the reserve list to include some Modern staples would be healthy for the format moving forward, and if not, I'd love to hear your opinion too. See you in the next video.